This is the 2015 AP English Language and Composition FRQs, starting with the synthesis essay. We're going to go ahead and start by reading the prompt. We know that we're going to get a little bit of context in the first part that will help us develop our ideas based on what we're being asked to do. And it reads, many high schools, colleges, and universities have honor codes or honor systems, sets of rules or principles that are intended to cultivate integrity. These rules or principles often take the form of written positions on practices like cheating, stealing, and plagiarizing, as well as on the consequences of violating the established codes. Carefully read the following 6 sources, including the introductory information for each source. Then synthesize information from at least 3 of the sources and incorporate it into a coherent, well-developed argument for your own position on whether your school should establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate an honor code or honor system. So we are trying to determine our own position on whether our school should do one of these things here. Establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate. So we're covering all bases. If you don't have one, if you already have one, if you have one that needs to be fixed, or if you have one and it just doesn't work, so get rid of it. Your argument should be the focus of your essay. Use the sources to develop your argument and explain the reasoning for it. Avoid merely summarizing the sources. Indicate clearly which sources you are drawing from, whether through direct quotation, paraphrase, or summary. And we are, of course, going to stick simply to the letter format. Now, one of the things we're practicing as we go along with these synthesis essays are how to add new skill sets, right? We are building, we are scaffolding. We started with the overview of how to attack these. We've practiced about 3 or 4 years now of building skeleton outlines. And now we're going to learn a couple more techniques that you could do. So looking here, we want to have an idea of what our position might be before we go to the sources. So for this particular prompt, you might be thinking about your high school. Does your high school need to establish, maintain, revise, or eliminate an honor code? I'm going to select revise as I go forth and read these sources. So I'm going to have in the back of my mind that my school needs to revise either its honor code or its honor system. Okay. Now, as we're going to move into these sources, I want to pause beforehand. I want to remind you that you are reading the prompt first to determine a position. And then you are going to read the sources. And then you're going to annotate and then any form of paraphrase at the top to help you get the gist. There are different systems of paraphrase. You can write words, you can use symbols. For some of the synthesis essays, it's easy to use the plus, minus, equal system. And if you couple that with a paraphrase, then you have a pretty good idea of where you stand. The next thing you're going to do once you're done is go back, think about your position, and formulate ideas. So let's put brainstorm ideas. And there are a few ways that you might do this. You might jot down the different issues related to the prompt as brought forth by these sources. That doesn't mean to write down every single source, but rather, okay, this source seems to be looking at fairness and equity. So that might be an idea that you look at in terms of revising an honor code system. So you're just brainstorming ideas. Then you're going to select ideas for your response. And then finally, you're going to build a skeleton outline. And why is it a skeleton outline? Because it's bare bones, folks. Skeleton outline will have your working thesis and then each body paragraph. When we do our synthesis, we shoot for 3 body paragraphs. It's certainly acceptable if you only get to 4. It's acceptable if you do more than that. But what's not acceptable is spending more than 55 minutes on this essay. 60 minutes, 1 hour would be your absolute maximum, because that means you've lost 5 minutes total from the remaining 80 minutes of the exam. You don't want to lose time. You don't necessarily need to pick up time simply because the synthesis essay is the most involved of the 3 that you are being asked to write. Now, there are a couple of things that you should know about building your body paragraphs. When you're doing a synthesis essay, you are formulating your own original idea. So your thesis is your original position. There is no formulated thesis statement for you. You have to determine a position, and it should be a specific position. You don't want something that's rather vague or generalized, because then your response is probably going to be vague or generalized. So you want a position. And then for your body paragraphs, there are a couple of ways to do this. Body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3. Each should have their own topic sentence and their own explanation, elaboration, and then examples and evidence that's supported with the sources. Now, one way that you can write your synthesis is you can have your evidence, and that would be your source, and you can also have counter arguments built in to your body paragraphs. You might have a counter argument in all 3. That's a little excessive. You might just have it in 2, maybe even in just 1. But if it's built into your paragraph, it's actually a good way of citing a source that doesn't align with your position. If your position is that you should revise the honor code system, and then you read a source that's really strong about maybe completely eliminating it, then you might be able to counter that depending on what your body paragraph is about. Now, if you don't embed counter arguments in your body paragraph, so let's just scratch all of these out. If you don't do that in these body paragraphs, then your third body paragraph should feature either a counter argument or a concession, because truly the strongest essays take into account that there are other perspectives, other points of view. And you are trying to synthesize information to support a position, but when you have a position, there's always going to be a position that runs contrary to yours. Okay, so just want to make sure that we have that overview and we understand what is it we're doing and what are we looking for. So we've already done the very first thing. We've got our idea of our position. Now we're going to go through our sources. Source A is an online cartoon, and we have some adult at a podium who says staff development using honor codes to prevent cheating. Okay, and so this is likely a principal or an administrator, and these are teachers. And then it has this quote: recent research has shown that a spy cam can greatly improve the honor code. And that's interesting. So for source A, we would need to define the parameters of an honor code, and we wouldn't want any sort of invasion of privacy, because that seems dishonorable, doesn't it? It's counterintuitive. Source B. This is from a student's account of the introduction of an honor code at her high school, Lawrence Academy, which is a private boarding school in Massachusetts. It's originally published in 1999. When the honor code proposal first came under consideration in the spring of 1998, many students, including members of the Senate, were quick to criticize it. Students did not fully understand the role of an honor code. So let's put that. Many saw it as another rule to obey. The earlier drafts of the honor code included specific penalties for violations of the honor code, which many students opposed. Students were expected to report or confront a fellow student if they knew that he or she had cheated, lied, or stolen. Failure to confront or report a student would result in a period of probation. Students opposed this obligation to take action against another student because they did not see it as their responsibility. They feared that a mandate to confront peers would create friction, and that a subsequent report could not easily be kept confidential. So really, this is kind of like students as police. They're having to police one another's conduct. And the argument there is it's not their job to do that. After much discussion and debate in class and Senate meetings, the proposal was revised to eliminate any formal disciplinary actions, although the expectation to take action if one witnessed or knew about any dishonest behavior still existed. I saw the revision to eliminate all formal penalties in the honor code as a huge step in gaining student approval, both inside and outside the Senate. Another part of the code which received student criticism was a requirement for students to write a pledge of honor on every piece of work submitted, stating that it was the result of their own thinking and effort. Many students thought that a pledge of honor for each piece of paper submitted was excessive, but a less frequent pledge of honor could be a helpful reminder of their responsibilities. This section was revised to require a pledge of honor at the beginning of each term, affirming that each student will behave honestly and responsibly at all times. In signing this pledge of honor, students have reminders of these moral values and a responsibility to perform honestly in the school environment. The revised pledge of honor also helped gain student approval for the honor code. So here we have an example of a revision that is needed to make it less militant and less punitive. Another turning point occurred when students began to examine the role of an honor code as something other than a set of rules and regulations to obey. In order to understand the purpose of an honor code, the real question was what type of environment we wanted to live in. As Senate members, we brought this question to class meetings for discussion. Most responded that we needed an environment where students and faculty could live in complete trust of one another. Although some did not see a need for an honor code, we as Senate members concluded that this type of environment could only be achieved through first adopting an honor code. Implicit in an honor code is a belief in the integrity of human beings. It also provides students a clear explanation of the importance of behaving with the integrity and the expectation that our resulting actions will increase trust and respect in the LA community. So integrity, trust, and respect seem to be a theme there. As the time to vote for the honor code approached, I and many other student members of the Senate felt pulled in two directions. We wanted to vote based on our consciences, but we wanted to represent the remaining skeptical and uncertain views of our fellow students. At the time of voting, most of us took the first option and voted according to our consciences, which we believed would eventually benefit every member of the school. I voted in favor because I wanted to go to a school where I could feel comfortable taking an exam without worrying about someone looking at my paper, and where I could be trusted visiting a dorm as a day student. I imagined that other students and future students of Lawrence would feel the same way. Although the full acceptance of an honor code will take time, an important process has begun, one which I believe will ensure moral action and thinking here at Lawrence Academy. Okay, so here we have a few different things that we could put as our annotation. I think we're going to put honor code as proactive, not reactive, not punitive, not something where students have to police. And then also we're just going to write trust, integrity, respect. Moving on to source C. Again, I don't always read them out loud, more in the interest of your time, but it is important that you take a look at the sources themselves. What are they? Where did they come from? What is the title? What's the date? All of this is information that you can extract and then use to your advantage in formulating your response. All right, so this one is clearly written by two authors, and it says honor codes work where honesty has already taken root. And this is from a educational journal, the Chronicle of Higher Education. The possibility that 125 Harvard students improperly collaborated on an exam in the spring has galvanized a continuing discussion about the use of honor codes. While Harvard administrators hope that an honor code can improve the academic integrity of the college, critics, especially Harvard students, are skeptical that signing a piece of paper will suddenly cause a cheater to change his ways. They're right. Not all colleges have what it takes to make an honor code effective. Not because the students aren't honest, but because they don't expect anyone else to be. And with honor codes, expectations determine reality. According to research by Donald L. McCabe, a professor of management at Rutgers University who specializes in student integrity, students at colleges with honor codes, typically student enforced, cheat less than their counterparts elsewhere do. Our experience at Hampden-Sydney College would seem to support this conclusion. We find little evidence of cheating, even when professors work in their offices during exams. Indeed, you have not seen an honor code at work until you have seen a show of hands for those who did not do the reading for today's class turn out to be completely accurate. Our honor code is strictly enforced, and the enforcement is handled by an all-student court. Students convicted of lying or cheating can expect to receive punishments ranging from suspension to expulsion. Okay, so here we have a range of punishments. However, honor codes don't always work. Mr. McCabe says that their success depends on a culture of academic integrity that leads students to take enforcement of the rules seriously. But economic theory suggests that it's more a matter of expectations. When it works, the culture makes for a successful honor code as much as the honor code makes for a successful culture. So that's an interesting link. There's a connection there. Student expectations about the integrity of their classmates can determine whether the college culture reinforces honesty. Say that each student arrives as a cheater type, an honest type, or somewhere on the continuum between them. Whatever the individual's innate level of integrity, we believe that each student will decide whether or not to cheat by weighing the costs and benefits. With a peer-enforced honor code, the likelihood of being caught depends on other students' tolerance for cheating. Students who enter a college of mostly honest types will more often choose not to cheat, even if they are innately cheater types, because the risk of getting caught makes the costs greater, because you're going to be judged by your peers. That leads to a feedback loop as more of the population behaves like honest types than normally would, increasing the impression that everyone is honest and raising still higher the expectation of being caught. This feedback loop generates the culture of trust and integrity that students, like those at, say, Davidson College, which has a well-publicized honor code, reportedly value so highly. Okay, so the culture of trust and integrity. I'm going to box that part. Unfortunately, the feedback loop can go the other way. If a student enters a college with mostly cheater types, not only are the costs of cheating very low, encouraging fellow cheater types to cheat, but the benefits of cheating or the costs of not cheating are very high, encouraging even honest types to cheat. That leads more students to cheat than would normally do so, creating a culture of dishonesty. The success of the honor code then depends on the expectations that students have of their peers' behavior, which is why colleges with successful honor codes must invest considerable resources in programs that influence how the honor code is perceived. Okay, so for the honor code to work, we have to have a culture of integrity. And we should also maybe put peer influence. Okay. Moving on to source D. At the University of Virginia, there's a saying that students soon commit to memory. On my honor as a student, I have neither given nor received aid on this assignment or exam. Students write this on every test in every class during their college career, pledging as their predecessors have since 1842 to never lie, cheat, or steal. It's a tradition that's made Thomas Jefferson School a richer academic environment, students say, as well as an easier place to find lost wallets. But even here, where honor is so well defined and policed by an elite student committee, plagiarism has become a problem. Since last spring, 157 students have been investigated by their peers in the largest cheating scandal in memory. 39 of those accused of violating the school's honor code have either dropped out or been expelled, the only penalty available for such a crime. Some students who had already graduated lost their diplomas. So this kind of points to the severity. So I'm just going to write, severe. Severity of the consequences. It's not like we're saying we hate you, it's just that we have standards here, said 22-year-old Kara Kuhlbau, one of the students on UVA's honor committee who has spent countless hours this year determining the fate of her peers. The scandal began in a popular introductory physics class designed for non-majors. The course, which explores pragmatic topics such as why the sky is blue and how light bulbs work, usually attracts 300 to 500 students per semester. Too many to watch closely, instructor Lou Bloomfield said as he started to worry about plagiarism after a student confided that some of her friends had copied papers from a file at their sorority. To find out for sure, Bloomfield spent an afternoon programming a computer to spot repeated phrases. So we're going to put a note here, uses tech to help. He fed in computer files of 1,500 term papers from 4 semesters of classes, and matches started popping up. I was disappointed, Bloomfield said, but I wasn't so surprised. I have a large class. A few of his students had simply copied from earlier work. Others had lifted at least a third of their papers from someone else. So this is a variance in maybe not necessarily the type of cheating, but how much cheating happens. The honor committee, whose 21 members were elected just before the plagiarism scandal hit, was overwhelmed. Most professors usually have a few people they'd like to investigate. Bloomfield handed over a list of more than 100. Philip Atbach, a higher education scholar at Boston College, said he isn't surprised. Plagiarism is more common now. It's just easier to do. underline that. The internet provides an inexhaustible source of information, and it's tempting to simply insert phrases directly into reports, Altbach says. Okay, so source D, one of the main takeaways here, cheating with tech equals easier. And that might be something that we can work into an idea for one of our body paragraphs. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next source. And for this one, we're given a graph, a table. So we're going to look at it. Again, we want to look a little bit up here and see what the background information, what the context is for the source. And this is assessing honor code effectiveness. And it tells us that this is a multi-pronged approach and a 5-year study, which is going to be more beneficial than a single prong approach and maybe a 1-year or even 1 semester study. That would be too limited to generalized results. Okay. We get the information. It's a research report describing an ongoing study at a small public university to assess student, faculty, and alumni perceptions of academic integrity. It says members of the Student Honor Council were encouraged to create their own survey and administer it in their classes. Faculty oversaw the research project. The student survey was given in fall 2007 and spring 2008, resulting in 275 usable responses. The findings are located in the table. Now, if we look here, we are given the topic and then the percentage, and it starts off seemingly rather positively. Students who believe the honor code is enforced fairly is 48%, but then immediately students who don't know the range of sanctions is 42%, and only 8% would ever report a fellow student. That kind of takes us back to the first few sources that we read. The students who say the honor system is discussed, that's a large number. But then look at this large number. Almost half of the students who say, or who are polled, say that they have violated the honor code and not been caught. So it makes you wonder, what's the point? All this effort, and you still have almost 50% who are cheating or being dishonest. Finally, you have students who believe that failure on the assignment is a reasonable sanction for the violation of the honor code, and that's going to be your highest number. So this might be a good thing to consider in terms of revising or implementing any sort of honor code or honor system. So HC questions, effectiveness. So there's my paraphrase for this source. Our final source is titled, or it's an excerpt from something titled New Honor Codes for a Newer Generation, and this was published in Inside Higher Ed, and it's from an online publication about higher education. It's an opinion piece. Research confirms recent media reports concerning the high levels of cheating that exist in many American high schools, with roughly 2/3 of students acknowledging 1 or more incidents of explicit cheating in the last year. Unfortunately, it appears many students view high school as simply an annoying obstacle on the way to college, a place where they can learn little of value, where teachers are unreasonable or unfair, and where, since everyone else is cheating, they have no choice but to do the same to remain competitive. And there is growing evidence that many students take these habits with them to college. At the college level, more than half of all students surveyed acknowledge at least 1 incident of serious cheating in the past academic year, and more than 2/3 admit to 1 or more questionable behaviors. For example, collaborating on assignments when specifically asked for individual work. We believe it is significant that the highest levels of cheating are usually found at colleges that have not engaged their students in active dialogue on the issue of academic dishonesty. Colleges where the academic integrity policy is basically dictated to students and where students play little or no role in promoting academic integrity or adjudicating suspected incidents of cheating. The impact of honor codes. A number of colleges have found effective ways to reduce cheating and plagiarism. The key to their success seems to be encouraging student involvement in developing community standards on academic dishonesty and ensuring their subsequent acceptance by the larger student community. Many of these colleges employ academic honor codes to accomplish these objectives. Unlike the majority of colleges where proctoring of tests and exams is the responsibility of the faculty and/or administration, many schools with academic honor codes allow students to take their exams without proctors present, relying on peer monitoring to control cheating. Yet research indicates that the significantly lower levels of cheating reported at honor code schools do not reflect a greater fear of being reported or caught. Rather, a more important factor seems to be the peer culture, let's circle that develops on honor code campuses, a culture that makes most forms of serious cheating socially unacceptable among the majority of students. Many students would simply be embarrassed to have other students find out they were cheating. In essence, the efforts expended at these schools to help students understand the value of academic integrity and the responsibilities they have assumed as members of the campus community convince many students, most of whom have cheated in high school, to change their behavior. So we're going to put a big star here, and we're going to put change, and we're going to use BX, which is a type of abbreviation for behavior. So we're going to change the behavior. Except for cheating behaviors that most students consider trivial, for example, unpermitted collaboration on graded assignments, we see significantly less self-reported cheating on campuses with honor codes compared to those without such codes. The critical difference seems to be an ongoing dialogue that takes place among students on campuses with strong honor code traditions, and occasionally between students and relevant faculty and administrators, which seeks to define where, from a student perspective, trivial cheating becomes serious. While similar conversations occasionally take place on campuses that do not have honor codes, they occur much less frequently and do not involve students in any systematic or meaningful way. Okay, so the last thing, we're going to put honor code need student involvement, feedback, dialogue, role in adjudication, anything quite like that. That's going to make your honor code more effective. All right, so we've made it through the sources. Now we have to jot some ideas down so that we can formulate our working thesis and our body paragraphs. So again, you are being asked whether your school should create, maintain, revise, or eliminate an honor code or an honor code system. I'm going to go with revise. It's what I thought about doing before I went through the sources, and I'm going to stick with that. And I'm going to jot some ideas down. And I'm going to use some of my shorthand annotation. My null sign is anything negative, so not punitive, no punishments, culture of trust, respect, peer involvement. Some ideas I might also put down, we need to define parameters of any sort of honor code or honor system. Some other ideas I might put down, adjust for new technology. That might be an idea. We have peer involvement. We're also going to put peer response. How might your peers respond to things, and how that might impact how you do things. And then overall effectiveness. And there's a question mark there, and that kind of comes from our chart. So I put down several ideas, a few more than we have of sources, just to kind of get me thinking about, okay, what do I want to pull from here in order to have a cohesive position and one that I can support with my sources. I know that I want to say that we should revise its honor code, but why am I wanting to say that? Let me get down a working thesis, and I'm going to say my school should revise its honor code. And I'm going to say honor code policies because that makes more sense for my school. To allow for greater student involvement and to adjust to new technology. So I have two main ideas. Now, I told you that I like to write 3 paragraphs, and I also told you that sometimes it's a good idea to build your counter arguments into your body paragraphs, and I can do that. But since I have this hanging space here where my third idea would normally go, this is where I'm going to have a bit of a counter argument or a concession, all right? So let's look at how I might break these ideas down. So my body paragraph number 1, and again, this is a skeleton outline, so I'm just jotting my working thesis and then what the topic will be for my paragraph, not even a full topic sentence, but just the topic and then what I'm going to pursue with that. First one will be greater student involvement. I should have changed colors, I apologize. Some of the points that I want to make here is that honor code should be designed by the ASB or the Student Senate. I think it's something that students present in their classes. And I would say also another point, there needs to be dialogue between students and teachers. It shouldn't be just something, and this is where I might actually use my source A. For this one, I would actually use sources B or C. But source A for dialogue. Source A depicts an administrator talking only to adults about adjustments to the system of the honor code system. That's not going to make it work. You have to have buy-in from the students. So I'm even going to put a little side note of buy-in. And you get that by having open and honest conversation with students, okay? Now, if I wanted to build a counter argument in here, I easily could. Counter argument, I might say it doesn't even matter because it's not effective. And then I might use some of the information from the chart. And I believe the chart was source E. Let's double check before I give you the wrong. Yes, okay? And I would use something like this, like what's the point, all right? You could even say that 65% of students report having talked about it with teachers and yet still 40% cheat. So there we have some ideas there for a first body paragraph. Now for my second body paragraph, and I'm going to switch to green for a moment just to keep things different. Body paragraph number 2, we're going to talk about how increase in tech equals increase in cheating, makes it easier. So we have to account for ease of cheating, especially plagiarism. If you can easily lift something from the internet, that's problematic. You could even talk about, oh Lord, there's so much technology today. Some people cheat using smart calculators. That's why you're not allowed to use certain brands on your SAT. Certain types of pens. I mean, there's all kinds of technologically advanced methods of cheating. You can even write about disappearing ink. Maybe you wrote the answers on your desk, things like that. So you have to adjust. So you have to make adjustments to account for the shift in technology. And that would all come from source D, some of the information I could pull. And then I think what we would do here is after we have talked about technology and cheating, you might also go back to A, or yes, A, the dialogue. If you didn't use it here, or even if you want to refer to it once again, you might use it differently, as opposed to over here we were talking about adults talking to adults, but over here we might say, this doesn't mean you get to install spy cameras. Okay, that's not what we're trying to do, but you could use that, and it enables you to cite source A again, showing that you can pull more than just one idea from a given source. It's kind of a way of showing off. Okay, so we have some ideas there. Switching one last time, this could be part of a conclusion, or it could be its own standalone body paragraph. There are a few things that you can write about here. One thing I might have chosen to do if I had spelled it out in my thesis up here, can a cheater be rehabilitated into somebody honest? But I think instead of that, I'm going to talk more about shifting culture, okay? Now, If this is something that I write here, and I didn't put it in my working thesis up here, can I make that correction when I write the actual thesis? Absolutely. Can I combine it in a different way? Absolutely. It's entirely up to you. But the shift of culture means that we have to be student-centered. We have to try to establish that culture of respect and trust, honesty, all of those things. And the sources that we're going to want to cite here, part of it I believe is going to come from source B. That was the Lawrence School, and talking about where we'd want to go to school and how we'd want to be comfortable in a test-taking situation with other kids that we trust. So we're going to put source B there, okay? Now, if we look, and I'll switch colors one last time, we have a multitude of sources from which to choose. We might use B, C, A, D, E. The one we did not cite is F, and that's okay. Do we have to use all of these sources? No. We have to use at least 3, but it's fantastic if you can at least cite 4. With that planned out, with your ideas spelled out, you're going to go ahead and get to writing, and make sure that as you build your ideas within each body paragraph, you are citing, whether directly or indirectly, from your sources. Time to write. Good luck.